This is Everyday Expertise, and I'm Angela. I'm here with Irina Ghitulescu and Marc Ducusin. They are members of the McGill Savoy Society and the producers of the company's latest production, Ruddigore, which opens February 8th. They're also actors themselves and ACTRA apprentices. Welcome.
Thank you, Angela.
So to start, what is the McGill Savoy Society, and how did you both get involved with it?
Well, the McGill Savoy Society is the oldest university-affiliated Gilbert and Sullivan Society in Canada, and they were founded in 1964. So they celebrated their 50th anniversary in 2014.
That's pretty cool. So how did you both get involved?
Yeah, well, we both got involved as performers. So I joined the society. I actually performed in the last mounting of Ruddigore back in 2011. So I moved here 10 years ago to do my PhD at McGill. And while I was at McGill, I auditioned for this production of Ruddigore in 2010 that was performed in the winter of 2011. And I did one more main stage show with them the next year. And then after that, I got into producing their annual cabaret, which is how I got into producing myself. So that's... Yeah, I've been with the Savoy Society since then in two capacities as both a performer and producer.
And you, Irina?
I joined the McGill Savoy Society for first their cabaret in 2014, so for the 50th season. And then I got into Pirates of Penzance. Marc actually told me to audition 2 years ago. Well, 3 seasons ago, but yeah. And I loved the show, and I've loved performing, and did Iolanthe the following year. And then I got to producing the cabaret earlier in 2018. And then I really wanted to produce the main stage production, so first book show, and that's how I got into it. And I also felt that I really wanted and needed help and guidance, and so I brought him on.
So, okay, what is Ruddigore? What's that about?
So it's the operetta that Gilbert and Sullivan wrote after The Mikado, which is one of their most favorite.
Right.
Well, it's a favorite work among Gilbert and Sullivan fans, but certainly one of the most famous. Ruddigore is a little bit of a lesser-known story, but it has lesser-known operetta, but it has a bit of an offbeat Gothic quality. So the premise, the plot of it is that it's about this line of English noblemen that are under this witch's curse that compels each of them to perform a wicked deed every day on pain of death. So the latest baronet of Ruddigore has been trying to evade the curse with comedic results and complications.
Many
complications. Many musical complications.
Romantic complications, musical complications.
Patter complications.
Okay. Dancing, music.
Yes.
There will be dancing.
Everything.
Everything.
Musical theater. Well, I mean, Gilbert and Sullivan were pretty much the precursors of musical theater. So it's light opera, it's operetta, which was their style became extremely popular in the 19th century, and then led to the kind of vaudeville and then musical theater that we know today. So it's a lot of wit, it's fast-paced. Yeah,
wordplay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a lot of the singing is done in a classical style, but because it's comedic, there's a focus on very light comedy. It makes it maybe a little bit more accessible than a lot of full-out operas are.
Okay.
Yeah. And this one's it's a little bit special because it has a bit of a Gothic supernatural twist, as we mentioned earlier.
How do you normally with the society? So you started as performers and you became producers. How did you transition to sort of the behind the scenes role then?
Yeah.
Do you volunteer for it, or you get chosen? Or?
Oh, we always volunteer.
Yes.
Yeah.
But
is there an election process?
You get hired as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
But so because it is a student society, it's like none of the cast members or creative team members, for instance, are paid. But there is the way the structure of the society works. It is a company.
Yeah.
So there is an executive team consisting of a president, a vice president, a treasurer, and other members, and they're the ones who, the president is the one who interviews and hires the producer.
Yeah.
So that's how we both got on board.
So you do have to submit a formal
application.
And then there's like a selection process.
Yeah, an interview process, exactly. Yeah.
So, you know what, let's just get down to it. For someone who doesn't know what you do, what does a theater producer do?
The big question.
Everything.
What doesn't the producer do?
Yeah, that's true. Actors, respect your producers. Seriously, we do so much. That being said, it's a bit of everything. It's talent recruitment, it's HR, it's negotiating, well, not salaries, but in terms of
creative decisions.
Yeah, everything in terms of creative decisions and networking and organizing.
Yeah, that's a big part of it. So there is a business side to it, but also a creative side as well, because as you do, a lot of these decisions are creative in nature. So the biggest job, one of the biggest jobs is, as you were saying, it's recruitment. So that consists of hiring the creative team. So everyone from the music director or directors to the stage director to the lighting designer, the set designer, the costume designer. So basically the producers have a big say in what the show will turn out to be creatively, because they pick people who have artists who have experience, first of all, and particular visions, and hopefully a vision that will align with what the producer hopes to get out of the show.
Well, that's one of the things that, because I started this year, I did the interview process for the stage directors, the musical directors. So we have, particularly with Savoy, we have 2 musical directors, we have 1 vocal director for the cast, and we have an orchestra director, because
to conduct the orchestra.
Do you have like a full or partial orchestra?
Oh, we have a full orchestra.
Full orchestra?
It's exciting.
And it's at Moyes Hall, so it's a really grandiose performing space, and acoustics are beautiful, so the full orchestra and the cast and the large stage make for a very...
it's a big production.
It is spectacular.
Yeah, that sounds like it.
In the actual sense of the term.
I mean, I don't want to say that the producers dictate what the show will be like creatively, because certainly when you look for directors, you're open to their vision and what they can bring to it. But in also choosing the other members of the team, you pick like a costume designer that has their own particular vision. You can bring the costume designer ideas, of your own ideas from the director, so it really is a collaboration.
Right.
But in choosing the different pieces and the different talents and personalities,
they have to
setting it in motion.
They have to mesh well. So basically, we're event coordinators.
In a way, I guess.
But but with an artistic side to it too.
Event coordinators.
Some event coordinators are quite artistic.
I've never worked in that field. So I defer to you.
How do you choose your projects at McGill Savoy? Because you basically put on one big production each year, right?
The executive team actually chooses what the next show will be, and it usually follows a rotation, because
you don't want to do
the same
one
thing all the time.
2 years in a row. However,
or even one that was done just a couple of years ago. It's too soon, so they try to rotate them in a sensible fashion.
That being said, we know that there are some productions that are more accessible and will be more successful just because they are more loved by the audience. But there's also that as artists, we also want to have the audience discover something else. As for instance, a few years ago, they did Merry Widow, which is actually not
a Gilbert and Sullivan. So that was a bit of a gamble on the part of the society for the first time in their history to deviate from doing Gilbert and Sullivan and to do another operetta by a different composer.
A contemporary one, or
no, also from
of their time. I mean,
a little bit
contemporary of Gilbert and Sullivan. Pretty much, yes.
Cool.
Yeah.
So, this show is very much about process. Can you give us sort of a summary of the process that you've gone through with Ruddigore, basically from the beginning to what it's going to be like going up to opening night? And I don't know if you have very many duties afterwards.
It continues after.
So
after the run. Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
first of all, as Marc said, the executive team hires the producer, and then we hire the creative team. And once that's set, we get onto scheduling. So scheduling a time and a place for casting and discussing what type of casting we want, which based on the vision,
the needs
that
of the show as well as the needs of the text.
so the number of actors, et cetera, et cetera. And after casting, then we really get into the nitty gritty of production and
the rehearsal
into,
period.
Exactly.
Yeah, and also roughly around the same time as casting, we also collaborate with the music director or directors to recruit the orchestra members. So that's, it's basically like casting, but for the orchestra. And then the same process happens there where then you start coordinating for orchestra rehearsals concurrently with the cast rehearsals. And
so you're handling scheduling and that sort of thing, basically?
Well, scheduling is...
that's more the purview of the stage manager in collaboration with the producers. Yeah, and the directors as well, because you need to coordinate everyone's schedules and availabilities.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of, there's a lot of fluidity in that. There's definitely a structure, but the show is a living thing, and
you want to keep it organic.
Yeah, but in the sense that there are always some things that we plan that won't work out necessarily the way that we in the timeline that we thought it would take, etc. There are certain aspects, let's say with cast or this number for music, that takes more preparation than initially expected. So in that instance, the director, the stage manager, and the producers will get together and come up with a new plan that fits the needs, the current needs.
Exactly. Does it get more involved since it's a student society? And I imagine a lot of your members are in classes and stuff? Or?
Yeah, that comes into play. Yeah. So exam season, for instance.
We have learned that there are certain times that are, that's one of the aspects that's very different from let's say
community theater company or
from other community theater companies that are not school run, university run, or let's say from professional companies. That being said, all theater I think is community theater, because that's who we do it for, and that's why we perform, to tell stories to the community.
Okay, so we've talked about, basically we sort of stopped at rehearsals, I think.
Yeah.
So now, what phase are you in right now?
Yeah.
Break. Winter break.
Winter break,
But yes, after the Christmas break, school starts again for McGillians. And
we'll resume rehearsals.
The first week of January, exactly. And then we open on February 8th, 2019. It's coming soon. It seems like it's still a while away.
Yeah.
But this is pretty much what we call crunch time.
Yeah.
So it's definitely, because we will have had, when we come back on January 7th, almost a month of break. So it's going to be recuperating, getting back to speed,
the groove,
exactly, and then really polishing what we have, cementing some aspects that weren't necessarily quite there before the break, and then incorporating the cast and the orchestra together, the costumes, the lights,
so
the sound.
It's building up to what in the theater world is called Tech Week, or is like Tech for short. So that's the week, at least by our schedule, like the week that we open. But starting at the beginning of the week is when we first load into the theater. So we move our set pieces, our costumes, other technical pieces are loaded into the theater, and then we start doing tech runs of the whole show for the first time, incorporating the technical elements.
Right.
So
building
lights
up to
and sound,
costumes. So building up to dress rehearsal. And in this case, we'll have 2 dress rehearsals because some of the leads are double cast.
Oh,
so
I
we need to give 1 dress rehearsal.
Yes, we do have
set.
2 casts, so that's also really exciting and something that we very much enjoy, because we, as producers, we're sitting in rehearsals and we see the same show, but completely different interpretations.
Yeah.
So we know it's the same character, but at the same time, it's really also dependent on the person who
Of course,
who plays.
different
and the
person,
chemistry between different pairings of characters, which is always exciting to see the different colors that they bring to their parts and their scenes and their songs together.
That's interesting. So we're
And
at
then we
opening
open.
night. Then we're opening night. And what's the producer going to be doing? Besides taking a breath, enjoying a little champagne,
Champagne. We're community theater, Angela. Cava at best.
sparkling wine.
However,
there's still just making sure that everything is running as it should.
Yeah.
Because you do have to, of course, you trust your team, your creative team, your collaborators, that everyone, you've chosen them for a reason, and that you know that they can do their job. But also, it's good to be able to check in with everyone just to make sure that things are running as they should, that the schedules are being respected.
speaking of schedules and everything of that sort, so there's a bit of a role reversal that happens during Tech Week. So in terms of behind the scenes responsibilities, before Tech Week, producers and directors and of course the stage manager do a lot. But by the time Tech Week hits, the stage manager becomes God. He or she runs the show. So it's extremely important to have that very clear communication between producers and stage manager. So the stage manager is going to basically run the entire technical aspects of the show, and we're there as spectators in a sense to see, oh, well, that didn't work during dress rehearsal, or that needs to be adjusted during tech, and bring it up to the stage manager or to the rest of the creative team or whoever director. And we also, for the Savoy Society, the night before opening night is both our press preview as well as our patrons night. Exactly. So we get to mingle, we get to network, we get to dress up, and to basically promote our show.
And unveil it to the public, unveil it first of all to the patrons and to the press.
And it's very exciting having a patrons night, because a lot of our patrons are
alumni of the Savoy Society. From many years back sometimes. So it's exciting to show them what the current generation of Savoyards is doing. And
we even had the founder of the McGill Savoy Society a few years ago come to patrons night, so that was very exciting.
And then I would say other things that we do, we're also, I could have mentioned this earlier, but we're also the official liaison between the creative team and the theater. So because it's a Theatre Moyes Hall that's in the Arts Building at McGill, they're a theater that's been operating for many years. So they have their own team that we need to be in communication with. And and if they have any issues with the show or with what the people are doing in the theater, and vice versa. If members of our team have any concerns that need to be brought to the theater, it needs to go through us.
So in a sense, we're members of 3 teams. So we collaborate with the executive team, and we're the liaison between the exec and the creative team. We organize and chair and participate in the creative team meetings, and the same goes for the production team meetings. So the production team meetings are basically everything that covers the technical aspects. So lights, sound, costumes.
And making sure that all the resources needed are in place. And in place when they're needed as well, which is very important.
I imagine,
Deadlines and timelines are key.
So opening night has come and gone. Your play is doing well. It's had its run. What do you have any role afterwards in the production?
Certainly we'll wrapping up definitely. So as I mentioned at the beginning of Tech Week, we load into the theater. We also have to do what's called a strike and load everything out.
everything
So
down,
the producers are the ones who oversee that. In collaboration with
the
the
cast
state,
and everybody.
Yeah.
because
who's
it is
involved
a
in the
student
show.
community company.
Yeah.
Everyone needs to pitch in.
Everybody participates.
To get all our stuff out of the theater on schedule.
Yeah, I imagine.
So before we can go party, we have to strike the set and load everything out again.
And then it's party.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then it is party, indeed.
It's a good bonding exercise. As if the whole process wasn't already, but it's of a different kind.
Yeah.
Afterwards, we also have, I don't necessarily want to call it process day, but we do have, since we are a school-run organization, a lot of the team members will change from year to year. Yeah. So there's that type of mentorship going on. So we do have exit reports that we submit. Yeah. So what we did well, what we could have done better, what we wish we would have known.
Yeah. That also gets discussed at the final exec meeting, which is a bit of it's a postmortem for the show.
Definitely.
Oh, yeah.
That just to make sure that knowledge that we've acquired gets handed down to the next year's team.
And also accompanying the crossover, so the new members. We're going to, for the Savoy Society specifically, we're hired members, but the members of the executive team are elected during.
So before the end of the run of the show, the next year's executive team gets elected by the current members. So that includes the cast. Members of the orchestra are also invited to vote as well.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
So let's get into what is something you wish you'd known about producing before you began this journey.
Yeah.
I
think if I'd known maybe that I've been forewarned about how many fires there would be to put out.
Oh yeah.
That's the troubleshooting is always a big thing.
Right.
Plan A, B, C, D, and E is a good approach.
Yes.
Definitely.
Yeah, and being able to come up with those plans, like sometimes on the fly, if maybe if you come up with one or two backup plans that fall through, knowing that you need to be able to...
Never take anything for granted, that the resources you have are cemented. Don't go crazy either, in terms of second guessing everything.
Right.
But have that certainty, but always be prepared.
Yeah, to be flexible. Yeah. To know that, like the things that you would normally take for granted are contingent on a whole bunch of other factors. So if one little piece falls out, then sometimes that pulls the rug out from you a little bit.
Sort of a hope for the best but prepare for the worst sort of thing.
Absolutely. Yeah. That being said, there's a big caveat that I want to address. We are again a school run and a community theater.
Yeah.
In the professional world, when something is set, it is set.
Yeah, there absolutely. Are financial consequences.
There are huge financial consequences. There are financial consequences for us too. But that being said, they're again more flexible.
Yeah.
So that's the difference.
Yeah. That's cool. So, how do you personally, you two, how do you integrate your work on Ruddigore into your daily lives?
Well.
Or do you?
Well, it's inevitable that you do, right? I think we agree.
There's a lot of crossover.
Otherwise you go crazy, right?
Yeah.
There's a lot of crossover in the sense that, we're both actors and we're both very close friends, and this project has brought us even closer together. And sometimes we joke about the fact that, like, oh my God, Marc, I haven't seen you in 2 whole days. Wow. But to address the question, it's more you wake up, and if you have an idea and there's an opportunity, then you seize it. Or there's a deadline and doing something else, you have an idea, that relates to completely nothing, but definitely relates to the show. Doesn't relate to what you're doing, but relates to the show.
Yeah.
It's a good idea to talk to your co-producer about it right away and say, hey, what do you think about this? Is this a good idea? Oh, yes. Or, oh, no. Yeah. And
we confer over like coffee or something.
Absolutely.
To work something out.
A lot of Facebook Messenger as well.
Texting. Hopefully not too frantically, but because because it's, first of all, a creative endeavor and not a 9-to-5 job that has parameters of time, it can threaten to colonize your life a little bit. As you were saying, like you think about it first thing in the morning. Yeah. So because that happens, though, and this is something I think I've begun to appreciate a little bit more, and I think is certainly getting talked about more. Certainly in our experience as performers, like kind of knowing when to check in and check out of something, and making sure that you do make time for yourself. Where if you've made a commitment to yourself to just do something that's not show related, that you remember to respect that and to give that to yourself. But also knowing that you have to be flexible as well, because you never know when something that could be of use to you or like an unexpected resource again could crop up. Could come up in a social situation where maybe you've been frantically trying to find a new
venue.
New.
Funny enough, we were at a music show a few days ago, and we were like, hey, this is a really cool place. How much? So we asked our friend who was performing, so how much does this place cost to rent? And so
turns out
things like that. So it's really getting out of the. I mean, I'm an extrovert, so I tend to gravitate towards people as well. But even for myself, I wouldn't necessarily go out of my way and go and talk to a total stranger. I mean, just out of the blue. And I did that on a few occasions. I did that a few months ago when we were casting, and I heard someone play piano really beautifully at Indigo. And I turned to my boyfriend and I'm just like, should I go? Should I approach this person, or is that too weird? And then I was like, okay, no, I'm gonna do it. So I did. But it's not something that I would usually do. So it's a lot of personal growth to a certain degree, personal development.
That's important.
So that does do that. There's the crossover with that.
Embracing a kind of, I hope, benevolent opportunism.
Kind opportunism.
That's good. It's good. So what is your favorite aspect of putting on a production like this?
Just the magic of
getting to watch it.
Well, yes, getting to watch it, but seeing the creation from a speck of sand or from nothing to the finished product, and that's always the that awe-inspiring sensation.
Yeah, like having really the humbling honor of knowing that you had a hand in bringing all of those pieces together. Like when you finally see everything in place, and the show hopefully running as an organic whole, like having the knowledge that we do of what it took to get all those pieces in place.
There's definitely a sense of pride. Sometimes there's definitely as well the critical eye that gets a little bit too much, and it's like no, for the finished product you just have to let go by opening night, because there are always I heard something recently that I watched a master class of some sort, and the host was saying to create a work of art or creativity or whatever greatness, you need a lot of creativity and deadlines and not quite enough time. So that
makes sense.
So there's the critical eye needs to take a back seat, because it's true, it does feel like there's never enough time, and that things they're never going to be perfect just because we're human.
You can say that.
But it's just it really does feel humbling, and there's definitely joy and
so much
pride
joy.
in there.
Certainly like seeing members of your team, what they've collectively accomplished and individually accomplished as well. So and having been privy to each of their journeys and like knowing that the challenges that like any artist faces along the way, and then watching them give it their all in the performance. It's very gratifying.
Because one of the fascinating things about the McGill Savoy Society and its cast members, yes, it's not just students from McGill or alumni, it's the artistic community at large, like from Montreal, but there are a lot of students and alumni from McGill who don't necessarily study. Some of them study classical voice.
They're trained dancers in our class as well.
But some of them are, neuroscientists in training, or completely, but they just have a love for
a passion for it. Maybe they did some shows in high school and were happy to find more opportunities to do it once they got to university.
Or for some of them, it's their first show, and they really want to get on stage and experience that. And that's an opportunity that we like to offer as well. And we're proud to foster that, and we can see the growth, because there is between October when we start rehearsing and February when we open. These are not the same people who started out. So that's something that's beautiful to see.
I think is a really unique experience to theater. Just that what the growth that individuals can experience like throughout the rehearsal process. The way that casts can bond. And in some cases, like come out of their shell a little bit too for those who are relatively new to the stage.
Did you have any kind of mentors like that for yourselves in your own work, or people you looked up to?
I think I know I myself do have to mention our stage director from the past two productions, Roger Andrews, who sadly passed away this summer. So he was certainly a bit of a mentor to me. He's someone who had his story. I'm going to indulge a little bit, take a moment to share his story. So he had a very exciting career as a classical singer. Like he'd sung as a chorister and soloist at the Met. But when he interviewed with the Savoy president of 2 years ago, he had told her that the best time in his life was when he was a university student performing in Gilbert and Sullivan operettas. So after he retired, he wanted to go back and direct GNS shows for university and college students.
He did it.
And he did, and was again very honored to have had the privilege of working with him on on like two of his last productions.
That was in terms of mentors. I mean, for myself, it's mostly acting mentors. So some people in theater school, and a lot of directors I've worked with, definitely. And having that theater baggage and experience also allows us both to see, that works, that doesn't, and who we want to emulate, what style we want to emulate and perfect. And in terms of mentors, I'm gonna get cheesy here. But that's one of the reasons why I called him in as well. I didn't quite beg, but it wasn't very far off, because he was done as producing for this year, and I mean, and honestly, as a rookie, I'm so grateful to have Marc on the team, because he does bring a lot of. I'm more fiery, and I look ahead, and he's very much the diplomat, and just he has a lot of experience, and specifically to Savoy, so he's helped me tremendously.
Oh, that's cool. Thank you.
So, least favorite aspect of producing a theater production? Everyone's got something that frustrates them.
Start with the favorites.
Sponsorship. Yes.
Yeah.
Hunting for sponsorships, definitely. It's not necessarily, again, it's a challenge. It's not, I mean, no, it's not the thing that I'd like to do morning, noon, and night.
Right.
But it does bring, again, that aspect of tapping into the necessity of what the show requires, and just getting out of one's comfort zone and saying, okay, today I need to do this and this and this. And I mean, any show requires money to produce and requires an audience. And with sponsorships, it's definitely a give and take. It gives us visibility and brings in more money, and with a lot of, it can be corporate sponsorships, and even sometimes little thank yous, and we're so proud of you from the family members or friends who can buy ads in the program. So it's again a community effort. So yes, it's the financial aspect, definitely. That's the least favorite.
Yeah, which is always, because it's always stressful.
Absolutely.
Anything to do with money has a certain degree of stress attached to it. Yeah, I think for my part, being the bearer of bad news actually is
true.
Yeah, I think it's certainly the most heartbreaking part of the process. And yeah, when you have to be the one to break it to a member of your creative team that's something isn't going to go the way that they wanted. Something that we were counting on being there isn't there. That disappointing people is always going to be difficult. But it's on, the onus is on the producers to to present it to them in a way that's obviously
tactful.
It's tactful,
but firm and clear.
That doesn't mislead anyone.
Are either of you better at doing that part?
Tactful, firm.
There you go. That's a good team there,
It is. So I literally ask Marc sometimes with certain emails, like, I need to talk to this cast member or this, do you mind writing this email actually? So it's, we know our strengths and we play to our strengths, but also this co-producing business is helping both of us to take on the other's qualities, and it's I think it's really helping.
It's worked out really well. I think we should have mentioned this earlier, but I think one of the things that we can bring to producing comes from our experience as actors and be able to look at things from an actor-oriented perspective. That sometimes can get, I think, in looking at the bigger picture and the technical side of things, sometimes the actors can get lost in that a little bit. So we always remember what it's like to be on their side. So to there
is that overlap between I believe that was one of your questions, what's acting and producing, if there's any crossover, and there's that improvisation, but also eye for detail and seeing the ensemble at the same time. So yes, you do have to do that even more as a producer than as an actor. But as an actor as well, it's very important to know your lines, but also be flexible to some improvisation, because stuff happens on stage that's not supposed to sometimes, and same thing behind the scenes, or when dealing with issues that may arise. So it's I think
so. How do you personally cope with stress and obstacles? Those times when things aren't going as smoothly as you'd like.
Well, I do happen to have a taste for good wine, in moderation. Seriously, though, other than that, it is, as Marc said earlier, learning to really create and enforce those personal boundaries, and to take the time to take a breath, or a day if needed. Like if people get sick, and sometimes that will affect deadlines, or that will affect, and it's, I think, having the kindness towards oneself and towards the team, but also keeping in mind what needs to be done. And because this aspect didn't work out the way and in the time frame that we expected it to readjust immediately and to not really hold grudges, because that's counterproductive.
Yeah. Do you guys ever have any disagreements?
Disagreements? I mean, from time to
there
time.
Always. Yeah, I think in any creative process, like,
Absolutely.
people won't always see things in the same way. But it's you in being collaborators, like, you know, you have a system for working through that, and with good, hopefully like a good personal rapport, which I think we're both lucky to have, to be able to to figure out like compromises, and not always between us, sometimes between different members or like departments of the creative team too, like making sure that we hear both sides and figure out what the best solution is.
And to be able to take an idea and to have 5 or 10 different people take apart that idea or build it up, and everyone can bring, like, let's say, for example, I mean, a good example of that is this year's poster. I didn't have experience doing, doing that, and Marc is very good with Photoshop, and our former publications director from a couple of years ago, who is also a really good photographer and
talented designer,
exactly, helped as well. So that was a collaboration, and the stage director, exactly,
from the stage directors
in terms of what should be there in terms of the
how we want to represent the show
mood
too,
and exactly. So that's something that we do.
So you've both essentially, I guess you could say, you played roles on both sides, right? You've been actors, you've been producers now. Do you have a favorite of either of those?
We're still actors. Don't put it in past tense.
I don't mean it that way.
No, I know.
I mean, you've done both of these things.
Having been on both sides of the fence. But it's really it's apples to oranges. They're two completely different jobs.
Right.
I mean, if I were going to hierarchize them, I would again stress that I came into producing as a performer. So that was
same.
And partly with the motive. I think we've talked about this before, with the motivation, the partial motivation of like wanting to see other sides of the creative process that we could like bring back to our acting as well. Because I know, first of all, for myself, like, it's even the way that I approach auditions has changed, hopefully for the better, from being able to sit on the other side of the audition table.
Right.
It's you learn so much.
I think it's definitely going to help make me a better actor and have more self-confidence, and the knowledge, the overall knowledge is it's always a gift. And one of my future projects is also to direct a show. So I figured producing something would be the nitty-gritty and learning to deal with all the aspects of a show, because a lot of the theater that happens in Montreal is really indie theater, and a lot of performers are extraordinary performers and wear many hats. They act in the shows that they write, they produce them, they sometimes direct them as well. So
it's true of like film and television as well.
Absolutely.
So if you do recorded media, you'll have performers who will produce their own short films and direct
or
them. Or
interviewers with YouTube videos.
Or basically their own cast and crew.
Exactly. So it's definitely, I think it makes it makes us better actors and better producers and hopefully better human beings.
Getting to see the other side and appreciate what, say like the director does, what the producers do, what the stage manager does. Like, that you learn about, you learn about it a lot more quickly if you're on the producer's side of it. Whereas, as an actor, you, like it's you see the end products a lot more. You
You
see
have
the process too,
a
but from
bird's eye view
Yeah.
a lot more when you're on stage, and when you're an actor, you do have to trust the mechanisms that are in place a lot. Whereas when you're producing,
you
you're
see behind the scenes.
you're the one putting that mechanism in place. So.
All right, I think we've covered quite a bit, but do you have any advice for anyone who wants to get into theater production, get into theater itself?
Yeah, so I think it's similar to what we've been saying. Like basically, be able to be flexible enough to get into theater, into the different aspects of theater. So not just even if you want to be an actor mainly, like if there are opportunities to do other things, to be a stage manager, to do front of house for a theater company, be willing to do that because there's so much that you can learn.
And it's not linear. There are a lot of things that like your path can lead you in many different areas. So of theater, of communications, of it's for a lot of specifically Savoy Arts. They've shared that it's helped them in their careers. Whether that be public speaking or communications or nonprofit, et cetera, and definitely it's a help in, I think, personal life as well. And it definitely, Savoy in particular is known for its huge social aspect. So there are a lot of bonds. Sometimes lifelong bonds that can be created in theater, and I think a lot of people in the theater and film industry will definitely mention that how huge that social aspect and that friendship aspect and that community aspect are. So.
That's great.
Get involved. Love it. Get involved. Get out of your way.
Get involved in different ways too.
It's great. So I think we're basically at the point where I'm going to ask, how can people get more info about Ruddigore, about the McGill Savoy Society?
So we do have a newly revamped website. It's McGillSavoy.ca. Exactly. We also have an Instagram account, so you can follow us on Instagram. And
a Facebook page as well.
We do. That's true.
We'll have links to everything you need in the description of this video. And how can people get more info about yourselves and your own works?
Well, I'm newly signed as a performer in visual media and recorded media. I'm newly signed with Bellini Talent. So their website is belliniinternational.com, so you can find me on their roster now.
Oh, great.
I'm still figuring out what my next project is.
Okay. All right. That's great. So thank you. Thank you very much, Marc. Thank you, Irina. And this is Everyday Expertise. I'm Angela. Thank you for watching. Bye. Thanks for watching. We hope you enjoyed this interview. Be sure to share this video with friends and colleagues who may also enjoy this topic. Let us know your thoughts by leaving a comment below or check the description for our social media. See you next time.